In 1 minute's time, I'm going to be sharing with you exactly how to become the coach that the rest of your market follows, copies, emulates, and you wind up getting credit for all of the copycats and all of those people once they discover you. We change our timer from 2 minutes down to one. We'll get going here in just about 30 seconds. Cold Brew Gang, if you're here, you know what to do. Go ahead and drop a fire emoji if you had your cold brew today. If you had your coffee or your morning breakfast of choice, some flames are proper as well. Today's show will be going live in the podcast store on the 22nd of this month in May. So if you're watching here live, then comment live so I can say what's up. And if you're watching at any point in time in the future, drop replay and let me know what platform you're catching this on. Would love to say hi and see how you're doing. And yesterday's episode just went live on the podcast. Actually, today's episode just went live, which was all about how to not follow up the wrong way. So if you want to learn my tactics, my strategies, my thought process for follow-up, maybe you have some leads in the pipeline you need to follow up with, that one's going to be for you. And I think you will enjoy it. Let's set my cameras and my scenes and let's get this going and let's get this started. Hey, what's up? Jeremy here from whatupjeremy.com, back with another episode of a Client by Client. Wow. Hey, what's up? Jeremy here from whatupjeremy.com, back with another episode of Client by Client. Thank you so much for tuning in. In yesterday's episode, we basically pulled apart what needs to be done in order to make your offer juicy and went over the process for how to know when your offer needs to be overhauled. So if right now your close rate's below 50%, you aren't getting as many people as you once were, or you're not getting enough clients right now, 3 to 5 of them every month, and you're not sure where to start, you think you need more leads, I want you to take a step back and I want you to focus in on your offer and just get that as juicy as you can, because if your offer is not solid, you can throw all the leads in the world, you can throw all the paid traffic at it, you can throw all the promotion on social media, you are going to wind up losing those opportunities should they actually make it onto your calendar and into a sales call. And so I share with you the 5 things in your offer to actually focus in on to make it juicy so that your lead generation and the conversion piece of your business will go so much further. So it goes further and you have an offer that you know in your heart of hearts is the right thing for that person. You're not thinking about the hundreds of other coaches they could go and sign up with that might be better than you. You just know that this is the right thing for them, and that will exude in every piece of the conversation you have with them, from the DM when they reply back to you and when they use your call to action and send you that word you were asking for, all the way down to that little question we ask at the end of every sales call, which is, where do you think we should go from here? And have them closing you. This is a lot harder of my mindset to really get across in one episode, right? A few weeks back, we talked about how to get prospects chasing you, which I think is a pillar episode of everything we do here, episode 5. And every episode, we've just continued to build on that because it's a mindset. It's a way of living that gets people to come to you. And it's part of my mission with this show. There's a few, but it's part of my mission for you to become the sought after coach, for you to be the coach that does 0 hard selling, 0 cold DMs, 0 ads, and has prospects coming to you. You're getting referrals, leads are coming in organically every single day, and you're getting clients every single week. So backtrack 1 episode to episode 25 to see exactly what to do to overhaul your offer and if your offer needs to be overhauled. But that brings us here to today. And what I'm going to be sharing with you is how to become the coach that they copy. You probably have a role model in your industry of a coach that you really look up to and that you are in some ways modeling. And when you surround yourself with anybody else, whether it's a new social circle, a new friend, or a mentor or a coach or something like this that you're looking up to, it's inevitable that you are going to start to learn their mannerisms, their body language, their word cadence, and tell and maybe teach even stories or tell things that like they might be sharing as well, because you're learning it and these are your inputs. And so it's inevitable that you become who you're around. And in this online age where we're watching and consuming content on YouTube, here in podcasts, live on social media, that you're going to become like those people's content that you surround yourself with. And so that's inevitable. But when you overuse that, you have the chance to really lend into this thing called imposter syndrome, which in the past, a lot of people have said it's because you don't know what you're doing and go out and teaching and going out and teaching it, which is none of you listening to this right now, because I know that none of you would do that. But there's this new sort of imposter syndrome that happens when you're modeling other people that are far ahead of you and you're not there yet. And then you fake it, and then you go to try to make it, and something happens, and then you realize that, oh crap, these people are leagues ahead. And then you wind up with imposter syndrome, and that can keep you from actually going out there and leveling yourself up and your skill set and your storytelling up. And then you wind up either retreating from coaching, or you have the opportunity to double down and become the highest and best version of yourself. That's at least my belief. But it's my mission and my goal for this episode for you to understand exactly what to do, so that, I talked about how we all have coaches and role models and mentors that we go on to emulate and that we want to be like, right? When I was a kid, I wanted to be like The Rock. When I was in high school, I wanted to be like Rob Dyrdek. When I look at business, I love Mark Cuban, love Elon Musk. I have coaches that I follow here in this space. You guys hear me talk about Dean Jackson and Joe Polish a lot. I have one finger. I count them as one person because I was introduced to those two all in the same breath. Talkie Moore, one of my old mentors, Brian Harris. These are all people that are like, I've internalized in some ways. All right. When you find someone who watches Gary Vee's content and consumes a lot of it, because you're going to hear a little bit of the cadence. You're going to see a little bit of the same mannerisms. You're going to see a little bit of the same themes and the things that they're saying. And I don't think that's inherently a bad thing to become like people that you admire, but that can be so overused that it can turn into the imposter syndrome, and it can keep you from all of the beautiful things and lives that you can change and revenue that you can generate as an online coach and in your online business. So before I talk about exactly what to do to become the coach they copy, I think it's important that we talk about what happens if you don't get this right. The first thing that happens is that you wind up blending in. In the Get Clients program, my students know that I call this being beige. And this comes from the past with both IBM and Apple, when computers were the beige boxes and the people who used them all looked the same. They were white collar with a tie, the blazer, kind of looking like the normal office goer of the time, the tie wearing, pleat, khaki pants, so to say. And so like everybody was just the same thing, the same color. The computers looked the same, the people looked the same. And there was this, this thing that has emerged afterwards as we look back as like being beige. It's being vanilla. And so that's the first thing that happens. And while I don't think that's the worst thing in the world, where this ends up heading you off and leading you to, I think is. And so the first thing that happens is you start to blend in, and it becomes really hard for your market to decide and make a decision between, to decide to actually go with you over going with another coach who maybe doesn't blend in, who maybe stands out, who maybe is doing a better job of standing out and of showcasing their own unique personalities and traits. And so you wind up blending in. The second thing that happens that this leads to is that you're seen as a dupe. You're seen as a copycat. And you can totally get away with modeling others more so than coming up with your own original stuff for a certain amount of time. But inevitably, those people in your market, those prospects, and maybe even those clients might come across that person or people that you're modeling or that you really look up to. And then they end up realizing, oh, wow, like that's exactly what my coach was saying. That's exactly what you were saying to them. And then they're either thinking one of two things. They might give you the benefit of the doubt, or might think that that person is copying you, or they might hear a couple more things and realize, oh, dang, this person I'm paying, or this person I'm thinking about investing through myself in and joining their program, or this person I'm starting to follow on social media, they're just copying this other person that's well known in your space. And every one of you guys has that known people. Like when I think of my space, there are male influencers that all the guys want to be like, and there are female influencers that all like the females want to be like, and there's tiers to them, almost like when you talk about like A, B, C, and D list celebrities. So the first thing that happens is you blend in. The second thing that happens is that you're seen as a duplicate, as a copycat, and when that happens in the minds of others, they will start to wonder where else in your life you're not being completely honest. Where else in your life are you telling these other, not necessarily full truths, not necessarily half truths, but other people's truths? And when they start to have that questioning about you, they're not going to be asking the kind of questions that bring you into the best light in their mind's eye. So thing number one that happens is that you blend in. The second thing is that you wind up being seen as a duplicate and a copycat. And this means that you need tons of new people and fresh people every single day to fill the spots of those people who have found you out. And you wind up in this never-ending cycle. So that being said, let's talk about what to do instead so that either one of two things. You're at least original as fuck as an online coach, or you're most definitely not being seen as or copying others. And I think it's worth me stating before we get too deep here that I do not condone you blatantly copying or ripping off other people. Is there a way to learn from others and to give credit to others? Yes. And whenever you learn something from someone else, you should give them credit. You guys hear me give a lot of credit to other people that have had a massive impact on my journey. Or when I hear things or I'm listening to something, I'll say who it was, and I do my best to give credit. And at the same time, though, I've learned so much that for some of it, it has become things that are now mine that I'm going to be sharing about here in a second for what this process looks like when it's done well, done ethically, done honestly, and from a good place. And so like there are things that I do now that have become mine, or there are methods and strategies I've learned that are maybe I don't remember exactly where they came from. And so there's a little bit of balance of give credit where credit's due and give credit when you're talking about something you learned from something else. And there's this other part that sometimes you will wind up through others being quoted and giving credit to those things that were from others. But at the end of the day, there is nothing new on God's beautiful green earth, which leads us to point number one, which is that you have to accept that everything is a remix. Steve Jobs said this decades ago, at least 1 or 2 decades ago, that everything is a remix on something else. Apple didn't invent the phone, but they most definitely reinvented it. There were many players in the handheld tablet space that tried to beat Apple to get into it before Apple got in with the iPad. They didn't invent the space, but they most definitely defined it and become the bar for everyone to step to. Apple's a good example for all of you as a company that all of the other companies go to copy. Apple goes to aluminum, HP goes to silver and gray on their computers. Apple uses black keys. Everyone starts using black keys. And then what you wind up finding is if you're a PC user and you go into an Apple store for the first time, is you see, oh, there's something different here. These computers that I'm looking at are different. And these are the ones, all the ones I've bought or all the ones at Best Buy and Costco or wherever are trying to be like. You realize it. And then the thought becomes, why buy the cheapo knockoffs when I can just have the real one? And that's not the exact, maybe literal conscious thought that initially happens, but it's most definitely the subconscious thought process that happens, and it's no different for you as an online coach. So the first thing that you have to accept is that there's nothing new under the sun, there's nothing new on God's beautiful green earth, and that everything is a remix. So what do I mean by that? We use a quote by Steve and we talk about Apple. Now, what do I mean by that when it comes to online coaching? Well, when it comes to remixing is that you're going to be learning things, for instance, from me or from other coaches that you look up to, coaching programs that you invest in and join. Maybe it's mine in the Get Clients program. Maybe it's another one that you've had your eye on, or you get made the right offer at the right time to join a program, and you're going to be learning these things. Well, I think it's important to understand that the person you're learning from had to have gotten this from someone else. And even the coaches that I most admire get their strategies and tactics and things from other places. How they stay fresh. What they try to do a good job of is partnering with those people or interviewing and having those people on, or just giving credit where the credit is due. A lot of people don't care when those things are in place. When you're giving credit, when you're maybe bringing in the other person that you learned it from into your program or onto your content and social media channels. But there is a way to remix. And I think the best way to remix is to combine the things that you are learning and to make them your own in a way. So maybe you take a strategy 1 from Coach A that you're learning, and you take strategy 2 from Coach B that you're learning from, and you combine them into a kind of a new thing that you end up coining. And I think that it's in your best interest to give credit. Like, I heard this from Coach A, and I heard this from Coach B. And so what this allows for you to do is to be not seen as a copycat, number 1. And then number 2, you're in free reign now because you remixed. You came up with something new. You took ingredients from different recipes, you made them your own, and you did your best to give credit as you went. And so you have to accept, number one, that everything is a remix. I don't care what coach you're following, what they learned was handed down from something else. And the best example I have of this at large that I think most of you will understand is how every 10 years the law of attraction gets remixed and resurfaced back up, right? 20 years ago, it was The Secret, maybe a little less, but it was The Secret. I'm getting old, guys. Before that, all the way back to Earl Nightingale, and now modern day into Tony Robbins have talked about, and they have mentors too. When you look at the Zig Ziglars, all right? When you look at the Napoleon Hills, when you look at these people, they set the tone for the law of attraction. And even these guys learned this from other people. They put it together and they told their own version of it. They made their own way of teaching it. And that's what I'm imploring you to do. Thing number one is you have to accept that everything is a remix. And then second, you have to kind of inherit that and start to remix the things that you're learning to start to make them your own. That's thing number one. Now let's talk about thing number two, which is really a mode of your professionalism and also kind of a mode and a way of life. And there are a few people that I want to give credit to. And I've actually talked about these different ways of looking at it that are exactly the same, that are just eloquently well put, and that I didn't come up with. And so the idea here is to, and Gary is where I originally heard this about 10 years ago, which is to not create content, but to document. And what he's not saying is like, yeah, don't publish things. What he's saying is don't worry about creating content, worry about documenting. Document where you're at in your journey and be totally honest and show the struggles and the successes, and maybe even highlight the struggles more, because what people will do is they'll start to accept you for where you're at. They'll find that in their own journey, they're going through these things. They start to live vicariously through you. They start to see and accept you for who you are, not look at you as a copycat or a dupe or anything like that, and you become your own you become your own version of the out in the world that people start to relate to, that they start to give credit to. All right. And so a couple other ways of putting this is like showing your work. There's a book called Show Your Work, and the author's name skips me, but it's a great book. It's almost like a book you can have on your, like in your bathroom, like on the toilet. It's like a little square book. It's called Show Your Work. They even have I think an audio version of it, which I highly recommend looking up. So find Show Your Work. It's a black cover with yellow writing, if my memory jogs correct. Another way of saying this that the company ConvertKit shares is to work in public. I'm an advocate with my students to, like, if you're not doing this, go to a coffee shop and work at least one day a week to get away from, like, for me, it's the dogs and just like the routine I get in at home. For others, it might be your significant others, it might be family members. It's just to switch up that energy and to get out into a place that you can focus on. There's a little bit of a framework that I give them for starting to do this as an initiative, but it's like working in public. And when you work in public, you're visible. People see you. They see the progress. That's the idea ConvertKit was expressing. I hope I'm doing it justice. Another way of seeing it that I learned from my mentor, Brian Harris, was to learn out loud. So anything that you're learning, start to share it and talk about the things that you're learning and share these things that you're learning. And then now you're not ripping someone else off. You're just being the curious student who's reading off their notes and doing their homework on the internet for others to see and learn from. And then what ends up happening is that they can go and check out those other sources. But when they go to those other sources that you're crediting, they're not you, and they're not learning out loud and showing their work and sharing all of their insights and struggles and successes like those other guys who have already made it, those other people who have already made it. And so they still come back to you to want to learn these things. And they're far more likely at that point, when you make an offer, when you make your coaching program available, when you have a call to action, to take you up on that because they trust you. And you're not this person that's 10 miles ahead of them. You're in the same boat as them. You're just the leader of the damn boat. And they want to be associated with you, and they want to learn from you. So thing number two is that you need to show your work. Focus on documenting your journey over creating content and trying to look like the talking head out there in the space that you're following, because they got there from years of work. It's going to take you years of work to get there. Just embrace that journey and don't worry about being seen as below anyone else or them being above you. Like, don't put them on a pedestal, and instead accept yourself for where you're at and just start being raw, real, and honest, because that is extremely rare in today's day and age. Thing number three, our final thing here for what to do to become the coach that they copy, And what I want for you to do is kind of twofold. I want for you to tell stories. And I want for you to sometimes come up with your own stories and analogies, but I also want for you to share your own real life examples and stories so that people can relate to them. I don't always do the best job of this, but sometimes it's just about grabbing a story that's relevant to the thing that you're sharing. It doesn't necessarily need to be something that you've experienced in your own life and had to go through to learn. Earlier in this episode, I talked about being beige, and I talked about Apple and IBM, the beige boxes. Guys, I wasn't even born when all that was going on, but it's a story that I can relate to you blending in and to get that point across. And I don't really hear others sharing it in that way. I've heard others say vanilla. I've heard other ways of sharing it. You guys have heard me in past talk about Sally Hogshead and about being pistachio, right? So like, she's using those stories that she came up with to express her points. I sometimes will tap into those stories and share them with you and give credit in the process, but you can be looking out and coming up with those stories and those ways of teaching your thought process, your methodologies, and doing your coaching in a way that shares stories from other things going on that you observe. You guys hear me every Friday talk about the fights that are coming up over the weekend that I'm looking forward to, and how sometimes I talk about like the fighter's journey. I'm not even a fighter, right? I've never gone into the boxing ring. I've never trained a day in MMA or BJJ. And so I share those stories though because these are things that I'm watching and that I'm relating in my interest to business. And so I share them to bring with you another way to hopefully get the point across, to drill it home, and to really make sure that you're not just seeing it for the strategy, that we're getting into the why. And now you have other things to look at for answers to this thing that's maybe not so businessy related. I hope you followed that. So you need to tell stories. These can be stories of other things that you're observing in your life. This can also be your own personal stories and your own journey. In fact, if you're not sharing your own journey and telling stories in your content about you and your past, I think that you're leaving out a major opportunity. I had a really good friend give me some feedback that I didn't really ask for, that in the moment hurt my ego a little bit, but now I've come to really understand as a big opportunity of mine. And what she told me was that I come across as robotic, that it's the same thing every day in my story. It's very businessy, it's very tactical and strategic. And in the moment, it didn't feel so good. I hope I did a good job of like not letting it necessarily show, because I want people to give me feedback. I want them to be comfortable with giving me feedback, but I also think there's a way of delivering feedback. But just because I believe that doesn't mean that everybody else has to or has to live by it. So what I've taken with that feedback now is I sat there and I said, like, why did that make me feel some type of way? And what I realized is that, you know what, I do have an opportunity. This was in 2018 or 2019. I do have an opportunity for being more personal and sharing more of my own personality and things that are maybe uniquely me, versus hiding those maybe, or not showcasing and highlighting those things so that people can relate with me. Because guys, coaching is a commodity. You learning what I teach about business is a commodity. There's thousands of other places you can learn it from, thousands of other people, of authors, of speakers, of people alive, of people dead, of people on YouTube, of people on Instagram, of people on TikTok, of people on Snapchat. Any platform you go to, there's going to be a dozen different people that look like, that seem like, that have the same accolades and experience, or maybe more, that I have, or whatever, coaching space that you're in and others that you're competing with. And so the only real way to stand out over a long period of time is to find ways to relate with the individuals in your audience. And I think the best way that you can do that is to show who you are and to show what you believe in, show what gets you pissed off, show and talk about stories that happened when you were younger that shaped you into who you are now. And I think that through that, if they're coming down to choosing a coaching program and a coach to work with, and they're looking at coach number one with huge authority and that does big product launches and does all those sorts of things and is running the ads and has the team and the business and the life all dialed in, or they're thinking about you and considering you, and you don't have any of those things maybe, or not to the level of that person that's your competition or they're considering you up against, well, maybe there is something though that they can super relate with you that makes you way more human than the other person. something that you went through, something that you shared one time, something that you might talk about a lot that's a very personal thing to you. And they might be able to relate better with you and decide therefore to work with you than going with others. And there's always going to be situations where they still go with the bigger coach, but I think that what you'll find is the same thing I found, is that in time they're going to circle back to you and say, I wish I joined your program instead of that other person's, because I got zero attention. I immediately kind of just didn't feel good about where my money went, and while I learned some things, I really didn't get as much as I was looking at. And I realized that I've already gotten more from your content in your show than from this program that I invested in. So I get that, guys, on the end of calls or DMs when I ask people, why are you having this conversation with me? There's 1,000 others that you could be having this chat with about your business and about what your dreams and your visions are. Why are you choosing me? And these are the sort of things that I hear. And while, guys, I haven't always been, admittedly, the best example of like not being the most original, because I learn things from other people. And sometimes when you learn them from other people, you talk about them like those other people did, and then you're kind of being that duplicate or that ripoff, so to say, that copycat. But over time, what you come to find is that it's just best to internalize it, learn it, give credit, remix when possible, always share your own stories, and then over time those sorts of things just become downloaded, they become a part of you. And I'm not saying that like your goal should be for, to take other things from others and then over time let them just become yours. But what I am saying is that in the nature of your career, these things are going to happen. But the more you tell your own unique stories, your own unique analogies, and show your unique personality, the more I think that you are far likely to pull on the heartstrings of your audience, for you to be the person that actually broke through to them, and for them to want to take a step towards you versus going towards all of the other coaches in your space who are saying the exact same things and usually the exact same ways. And so when you can find your own way to remix, to document, and to show your work instead of creating content or trying to be super well polished and not showing the ups and downs. And lastly, tell your own stories, tell your own analogies, and more importantly, be you, because being you and being yourself is your true unique advantage. And you may not get that right now while you're listening to this. I know a few of you did. I know the majority of you think that it comes out of an insecurity, and this is totally okay, guys, because this is part of our journeys as online coaches and as part of leaders and getting better as humans, is that you have to accept flaws and realize that those flaws are actually sometimes your greatest, if not always your greatest strengths in the opposite, because that causes for you to focus on different things, to become better in different areas in your life. And then you realize that, wow, these things I viewed as bad are actually kind of good. And these are the things that make you. These are the things that make me. So you should be yourself, because everyone else is already taken, and because you being you is your own unique biggest advantage. That is how you become the coach they copy. In tomorrow's episode of Client by Client, I'm going to be sharing with you what you're not doing that's hurting your ability to land new coaching clients consistently. So be sure to tune in for that. And if you're watching, be sure to tune in for that. It's going to help you get clients and become more consistent. Whenever you are ready, here are a few ways I can help you grow your online business. Coaches, it's absolutely important you're managing your conversations and your follow-ups outside of the inbox. And this is exactly why I created GetBookedCRM. And it's designed to help you get leads and turn them into clients in half the time. And right now, in May of 2023, it's 100% free. All you have to do is find me on Instagram at WhatUpJeremy, or comment wherever you're listening or tuning into this with the letters CRM, and I can get you over a copy of that so you can download it, install it, and start to be getting more clients consistently. Second, join my free group for online coaches. I've got about 1,000 online coaches from all over the world in a group where we talk about coaching, growing our businesses, and living an epic life in the process. You get access to me, to them, and to some of my best resources exclusively only for my Facebook group members. Wherever you're tuning into this, just drop the word group or message me group on Instagram, or search Leverage Coach so that you can get an invite and hop inside. Lastly, become my next success story. I'm getting some coaches together this month to implement my methods to land 15K in new clients or to double your online coaching roster in the next 30, 60, or 90 days. But I'm very specific and picky about who I work with. So this is only for you if you are a relationship focused coach who always puts the person ahead of the money. You've been coaching for at least 1 year. You would like to get 3 to 5 clients consistently every month from social media without using paid traffic. You have at least 300 Facebook or Instagram friends or list subscribers or members in a group. You're willing to take bold action because you know your success is dependent upon it. And last, but most importantly, you can keep a secret. Then I want for you to message me the words case study, and I'll share with you exactly what we have coming up this month and get you all the details. Share with you how we're helping other coaches with this already in the Get Clients program and what you can expect as far as results, time frame, and ROI, and share with you I'll share with you exactly what we have coming up this month in the Get Clients program, how we're already helping other coaches with this to be crushing it with getting clients consistently, and what this can do for you in your online business. Again, all you have to do is find me at WhatUpJeremy on Instagram and send me the words case study. That's it for today's episode of Client by Client. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll see you guys tomorrow with another episode. Cheers. I cannot get my words together in the beginning and in the end. The rest of it pretty much flowed. Some of these episodes, guys, you guys see me mess up a lot. I've been video and audio editing since junior high. And doing like broadcast style stuff. So what you'll see me do is very quickly just restart the sentence and go back. If I was recording this not live, I would snap so that there was a little bump in the waveform, if you ever know that trick. But I just look for the gaps and I just start to edit as I listen very quickly and go through. So I try to catch all of them, and it ends up sounding pretty smooth in the audio version if you've listened to that. Which if you're tuning in here live, guys, thank you so much. I super appreciate it. Drop an emoji or something so I can say hi and shout you out. If you got value from today, go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, search Jeremy Montoya or search Client by Client. You can get this episode, download it, and get all the other episodes as well. And if you're loving it and it's getting you value and it's bringing value to your life, and your online business, then be sure to drop me a rating and review. It would mean a lot. This helps the algorithm. This helps more people to discover the show. So if you're on YouTube, hit that bell, hit subscribe. Everywhere else, be sure to drop a comment, drop a like, let me know how things are going. And I'll see you guys back tomorrow with another live recording of the show. Thanks so much, guys. Cheers.